popular Two Sides and Print Power annual autumn seminars invite leading speakers to share their impressive knowledge of our industry. This year's event comes from Stationers' Hall in London, where content marketing experts, brand marketeers, print specialists and research professionals will explore how print can still thrive in the modern media landscape and take a practical look at how green thinking and environmental issues are affecting brand marketing.
So I've come to the Print Power Autumn Seminar today to really get under the skin of what's happening in the print industry across all the many disciplines.
Environmentally, digital printing, ordinary printing.
A greater understanding of cross-media methodology.
I was really excited to come today to the Autumn Seminar, primarily because of the networking opportunities within the industry.
I'm looking forward to discover new ideas about how we can bridge the gap between digital technology and print and paper.
The campaign for Two Sides in the US has been running roughly 2 years, and it's going very well.
Well, the campaign has just begun in South Africa. We've just had our first press release around Two Sides coming to South Africa, and we're very excited about that.
In Australia, the Two Sides campaign has been running for about 2 years. Before that, we had an Australian-based campaign, and then we moved across to Two Sides to have a more global voice.
We've made some great progress. We've doubled our membership in 2 years and have increased our budget significantly, so I'm very happy with the progress.
The generic problems around print and paper-based communication are worldwide, and South Africa is no exception. So we're hoping that at the very best we can change the perceptions around paper and sustainability of paper.
The Two Sides campaign in Australia has been more about unifying the industry, so paper, print, newspapers and magazines have all had one common voice, which is easier, leads to less confusion amongst mainstream Australians.
Thank you all for coming today. We've been running a campaign called No Wonder You Love Paper. It's been running in a number of European countries, but particularly in the UK. We're due to get from our publisher partners, that's the newspapers and magazines, about £7 million of free advertising space, we reckon, in Europe this year. We've certainly had about 3 million in the UK alone. So it's been fantastic support from the publishers. The Two Sides campaign is now active across 4 continents. Why are we still doing this? There are still numerous anti-print and paper messages out there. And if we do not continue to tackle them, they just gather and spread. So it's our job to tackle these and make sure that they're stopped. And we've had great success at that. Consumers really do love paper. They like the physicality of it, they like its reliability and permanence. And surprisingly, the younger generation actually had a higher than average affinity for it. There's numerous evidence out there that if you want your print or you want your message to get across, print is a very valuable media, and I'm sure some of our speakers today will be talking about that.
So what are the main opportunities that we see for print? If you are not on print, you are missing 18% of the UK population because they have never or rarely used the internet. So press is still a medium that you need to reach the consumer. So 1 in 5 still need print, so print is still important. Something also quite interesting is that editorial content is more credible than TV. The newspaper ads are high enablers of discovery. We ask consumers, how likely are you to buy a new product as a result of seeing an ad on the different channels? Advertising in print is quite influential when we want our consumers to test new products, again, because they trust the source of information. We also did some research for the IPC, looking at brands like Lenor, Comfort, Fabrice, and we saw that On average, consumers who were reading those titles and saw the advertising on those titles were more likely to buy the products. There was an uplift of about 8%.
First thing to say about digital, which seems so overwhelming and seems like it's taking over everything, is the original model is the same model that we all know. So all we have to work out is what kind of copywriting, what kind of content marketing planning, which is the other major thing my agency does, and what kind of training and skills do people need in order to translate that model that we all knew and loved into digital and make money out of it. When we did our survey, we saw that very few people have actually got what we call a content strategy in place. Very few people are doing what we know so well from print, which is to have a schedule, which is pre-planned, that is disciplined. Most people are reacting sporadically to business needs at speed, because the faster the medium, like digital is so fast, the more things all seem to kind of blow up and become disorganized. Maybe there's an opportunity for you to help people organize themselves in that way. People have a lot of problems. They have a problem measuring the impact of their digital content. They have a problem maintaining, updating it. They have a problem generating ideas. Maybe some of you could move into that world where you're doing idea generation, where you're helping people measure impact. If you ask, and this is digital content professionals, where do they expect to see the highest quality written content? Guess what they tell you? They tell you print. They tell you newspapers and magazines. They tell you that even they trust print content and think it has more gravitas and more quality inherent in it than the digital work that they are responsible for. Because left to their own devices, people do terrible things online, don't they? Don't forget what you already know. There are brands and organisations out there that are crying out for the expertise that we have. That old school rigour that we apply to our print products, they need that. They really want it. Just remember, they still see print and magazine content as the highest quality content there can be. Nobody can afford to be talking about just print or just digital. The future is about integration. It's about using one to drive traffic to the other and back again. And the clever thing to do with your digital content is to stop creating unique content for each platform. So, I recently trained the Office for National Statistics. They had one team doing Facebook posts and one team doing Twitter. There's no need for that. You can create a format that can be used for both Twitter and Facebook if you create a highly modular format. Like this is one of our clients, Virgin Media Business. COPE, you'll hear people talk about COPE, create once, publish everywhere. What it means is creating highly modular content formats like this, where the content can be reused in different digital formats. So you might have an article like this, that would become an email subject line, that would become a tweet, some of these would become related product links, that might be a landing page snippet for your search campaign, that might be your mobile site version. So one masterpiece of highly modular content that gets used and reused, far more cost effective for you.
So at Canon we set about trying to establish really what we felt was the real picture, what's really going on in the industry. The bigger picture is the piece of research that we did, and it's really about us trying to say, look, there's more to print than printing. Let's really get inside some of the challenges that these businesses face. We need to make sure that we can continue to show the value that print has. It's a highly valued asset in any campaign. It's the benchmark in terms of quality, in terms of the writing, the content, but also in terms of just the effectiveness as part of a communication piece, as part of a campaign. Then print is equally, if not more effective than many other mediums. 94% of the campaigns that are commissioned include printed material. And actually it gets even better than that, because when it comes to the campaign spend, 48% of the spend that they have available to them is also spent on the print. What's interesting though is that 1/3 of those people, when it came to digital printing and the print on demand and the variable data and all of the aspects that we've come to know and understand about digital offer, they weren't really sure about what that was available, or what was available to them and what that could do for them as a business. We're not very good at selling innovation. We often think about print as something that comes at the end of the creative cycle, where in fact actually it should be right up front, pushed in the marketeer's face to help them to make decisions about where they spend their money. Let's make sure that we actually perform a role of trusted advisor to marketeers and show them a way where print can be the glue in those campaigns, and it can be an essential element to make these campaigns much more successful. As an industry, we need to be much more closely aware of what the output from our efforts and what the output from these campaigns is driving. We saw from the research, and we saw very clearly, that there was a need for the industry to be able to prove the return on investment from the campaigns from which print has a part to play. We need to see the role that print can provide in campaigns. We need to tackle the ignorances that's out there about what print can do as part of campaigns. And we need to make sure that print is right at the heart of everything that's done. And if you can add content and you can add relevance and you can be very targeted and you have print right at the centre of that campaign, then we can have a greater influence and we have a greater say on what marketeers do in the future and going forward.
So I'll tell you a little bit about precision printing. We were established in 1966 and we provide print solutions to a number of large businesses across retail, financial services, public sector, and most recently the consumer photo markets. And as you can see from these numbers, our turnover has effectively tripled. We moved into digital printing and we created a digital printing business with a turnover of £8 million, which was far larger than the business that had taken us 40 years to create. So anyone that says there are no growth markets in printing, I'm pleased to say is incorrect. There are many growth markets in printing. Because we understand what's important about printing, it's emotional. People have an emotional connection with it. And essentially what we do is to provide communications with that connection, because we know that drives action. And it can drive action on and offline. Our customers increasingly think, talk and live digital. But for me, the bridge between those two worlds sits in one place with one word: engagement. And we're saying something quite bold, that digital loves print. And what we set out to be was a professional receiver. They are creating tens of thousands of original files that require print output every day. And what I wanted to do was to find a way to be able to receive and process those files and make profit from them. We looked for some software which would allow us to receive these orders and to process them automatically. None existed, so we began to write it. So we went from a printing company to a technology company, and 4 or 5 years later we're now launching this service so it can be shared with other printers around the world, and it's called the OneFlow Cloud. And it releases huge potential for the print industry. Web to print is something that almost 60% of printers or PSPs have a web to print system. And then you have the consumer space, so companies and brands like Photobox, and then a whole new generation of app to print providers, people like Inkly, where you can send a postcard from your iPhone, similar application from Sincerely and Cleverbug. So essentially what we're looking to do with OneFlow is to be able to allow the input from all of these various areas to be able to come into a printing business through the cloud and then be distributed to the correct PSP or printer globally. The thrill of seeing yourself in print is eternal, and that will never go away.
The content marketing industry is in very rude health. Content is king is worth close to £1 billion a year in the UK and $41 billion a year in the US. In the UK, it's experienced growth exceeding 10% each year, and that's expected to continue until at least 2015. Content budgets are being revised up. Furthermore, research commissioned by the CMA showed that the majority of brands aren't funding content by cannibalising other marketing budgets. but are instead finding new money. In this day and age, new money to demonstrate the importance they place on content as a legitimate marketing channel. Rather than usurp print, the rise of digital has bolstered it. Clearly, the way people consume print differs significantly from the way they interact with digital media. Consequently, brands are taking an integrated approach to their content strategy. For example, supplementing a monthly print title with a regularly updated content-driven Facebook page or an app with exclusive content uploaded daily. Charge a fee for producing content, started off being free, and justify the fee through research on investment. Creativity plays an important role in engaging the customer. All channels of media, online, offline, print, whatever it is, all collectively are very strong. 78% of the UK's most trusted brands regularly publish a customer magazine. 39% of consumers that read a magazine are driven online to investigate or purchase from that brand. Customer magazines drive 25% of people online to purchase. And this is an interesting one. 18 to 24-year-olds are the most likely age group to go on to buy a product online as a result of reading a magazine. There was some research commissioned 18 months ago in the supermarket field that said that a regular supermarket customer who read the customer magazine spent £7 a week more than a regular customer who didn't read the customer magazine. You have to work with the agencies, with the publishers, with the marketeers as part of that chain. Do not commoditize yourself anymore. You guys have got to be you are part of the creative process, and the creative process is part of the branding and the growth of communication channels.
As I progressed in the industry, I wondered what was going to be the future of publishing. And in the course of my research for news, I came across augmented reality technology, and I saw how marketers were using that technology. And for the first time, I thought, perhaps this is the future of publishing. It's an opportunity to integrate your print with your digital assets. It's also highly cutting edge and innovative in the world of publishing right now. It offers us an incredible opportunity to engage readers longer and in a completely different way, strengthening the value proposition that we offer to our clients. For some publishers, printers, we are creating new revenue streams in the form of services, and we can measure that action through the back end of the platform in the form of the statistics and analytics. It's the first time that the print is really speaking to us in measurable terms for the segment of the market that scans. Tips for integrating AR: getting personal, using location-based technology is very good. Social networking is also good for being able to share that content with your friends and your family. Engaging, demonstrating the products. Content needs to be very relevant. We need to understand when our customers are going to be scanning that content, where they are, how they're going to do it, and tailor the content accordingly. If I can get my customers to interact with my ad even 20 seconds longer, it's golden. Growth is not only in terms of making money, but it can also be in terms of increasing your in-house capability, tapping into your creative skills. I think first and foremost, it's important to be well informed about what's going on in this space. It's not going away anytime soon. You can think about the ways that you are communicating with your customers right now and how you can integrate and bridge your print with your digital assets using augmented reality. Could be very relevant for you.
To show you a different thing, which I call originally cradle to cradle. I'm talking about celebrating human footprint instead of minimizing damage. So I'm not talking about sustainability. I'm talking about innovation and quality. A product which becomes waste has a quality problem. That's it. A product which uses toxic ingredients has a quality problem. So forget about sustainability. This is pretty boring. Yeah? I'm talking about how we can use 40 years of blaming and shaming for innovation and quality. Copenhagen is the most ambitious one. They want to be carbon neutral in 2025 already. You can only be carbon neutral when you don't exist, the only way. Yeah. London, Boris says we want to be climate neutral. Yeah. And did you ever see a tree being climate neutral? A tree is always climate positive. It's not low carbon, it's carbon positive. It's not carbon neutral. A tree is carbon beneficial. Yeah. But here we are. Yeah. Can you see? Our aim is zero emission, Toyota. Yeah. A tree makes oxygen. A tree cleans the air. A tree cleans water. A tree is a habitat for 200 other species. Yeah. And it's zero emission. That's an emission. But people say, oh no, we need to go back to natural material. Yeah. And the paper industry is doing exactly the same strategy. Yeah. So I want to show you it's an industry innovation problem. It's not that I want to blame you for anything. So people go to natural material, 100% wool carpet. The thing is, you're never in touch with the wool because it's called Scotchgard. It's coated with plastics. Yeah? So you can do a lot to minimize your carbon footprint. For example, when you cut your hair shorter, you can minimize your shampoo consumption and your water consumption. Or when you enter an airplane, first go to the toilet, because when everybody would do it flying from Heathrow into New York, it would save 5 tons of kerosene. Yeah? And when you fly naked, it saves another 2 tons of kerosene. Yeah? So you can really do something, but does it really make sense? I'm talking about effectiveness. I tell you, hey, here we are, and because in the traditional sustainability reports, which you do as an industry, you make your customer your enemy. You tell your customer, if you don't buy it, it's even better. Don't print it. Yeah? Yeah. So I say, look, this is guilt management. Why don't you say, hey, here we are, and this is where we want to be. And now the more you buy, the quicker we are. Buying becomes a good thing. Your customer becomes your friend, not your enemy, keeping you away from zero. So that's why it's about not doing things right, but to say, what is the right thing? So don't optimize wrong things. Look at painting. Think about Mozart being efficient, Handel being efficient. Everything in life. Think about falling in love with somebody efficiently. Everything in life which really matters is not efficient. Why do you want to be eco-efficient in all your reports? Yeah? So why do we want to be carbon neutral when we can be carbon positive? This means we can use now 40 years of blame and shame for innovation. And the paper industry, the printing industry, is the key for that. Thank you so much.
Planning is the name of Marks & Spencer's sustainability programme. It started with 5 commitments and 5 top-line commitments and 100 targets. It's since evolved into lots of different iterations, and it continues to evolve. It's not a static programme, it's dynamic, it's challenging, it's questioning, and hopefully it's leading. So there is at the moment a bit of a, and there has been for the last year, a kind of painful awakening to the fact that our traditional processes and management systems are really insufficient. And touching on the net positive, moving from not doing harm to giving more back. And the core message is like leaning more towards trust as we're doing our best. We're not perfect, it's still difficult. We give more than we take, we try to, we're figuring out how. We need to be able to demonstrate that as well. There needs to be a whole evolution of metrics that allow there to be some credibility to claims that are made. I presume most people in this world, having been involved in wood fibre sourcing, are familiar with APP. APP are the kind of bête noire of the forestry campaign world. Continued to just do what they want. They recognised that things had to change, that was no longer economically viable for them, and engaged companies to work with them, made a forest conservation policy public. Now that doesn't mean they're quite in the great guys camp yet, but it does indicate the contribution that transparency has made to that business's credibility. The really big challenge, I think, is what we talk about big data, and data management and disclosure is the challenge that we're really only just beginning to understand. How do we make data work for us and not swamp us, undermine us and baffle us? How do we not become paralysed by just the sheer volume of information? How do we move from information to intelligence? I think everyone in consumer supply chains has to accept that there's a need for greater disclosure of information than there's ever been before. It's not really about being okay in the marketplace now. It's very much about being fit for the future and equipping yourself for a more demanding future. And that fundamentally we have to stop fearing transparency and embrace it as an opportunity. It is the future.
As you develop further in the society, your first reaction is really to use as much as you can of your local resources. And that's what we have been doing here in Britain for the last 6,000 years. We have been cutting a lot of forests, a lot of resources. 100 years ago, the forests here in Britain started to be bigger than the deforestation. So there are two realities here. One is that you can slow down the movement of deforestation, and the second one is that you can start planting more trees than in the past. So we actually evolved from hunting and gathering in many societies into farming. Some authors would say that this was the worst mistake in history ever, that we start farming. Because once we start farming, we were able to produce more food and to make more kids and to grow our population to 5 billion, 7 billion, 9 billion. So we have transformed the British, the Brazilian, the Indonesian landscapes into what you see here. To make a connection to what we heard the whole day today, we are sort of domesticating information. And that's part of the print industry. One example is what we have been talking the whole day is the digital media. I think the digital media is entering a phase of domestication. This is the global demand for paper and board. So as you can see overall, this is a growing industry. It happens to be a declining industry here in the mature markets. If we look at the emerging markets, the trends are just the opposite. Most of the recycled fiber today, graphic papers, newspapers, which we are consuming here, for example, they are entering into the tissue value chain. But since we are declining the consumption of graphic papers, so there is less availability of recycled fiber for the other products. So it is a must to start producing more virgin fibers in order to make this system work. We still have in Brazil 65% of our natural vegetation intact. This was done mainly because this is economically much more convenient, much better way to do it. When we talk about plantation forests and when we talk about natural forest, I think it's much wiser to compare agriculture to plantation forest than natural forest to plantation forest. We really have not only a carbon neutral type of solution, but this is a carbon positive solution. But still this process is rather slow. What is beautiful about this digital age is that we are now having knowledge to be able to select the right gene for the right characteristics. So little by little, we are able to map really what are the characteristics at the different trees which we are looking for, and we want to speed up the production of this or that characteristic.
I think the Print Power and Two Sides campaign has come along at exactly the right time for marketing.
Doing day-to-day communications on the myths and facts around paper products, and that helps educate the public around the environmental impacts.
It's really important coming from the paper side of the business to counteract the negative image that paper has in society today.
We probably need them more than we ever did because there's so much change happening in our world. And I think they're doing a really great job.
The power of direct marketing from the Print Power side with the sustainability of print from the Two Sides side. The right message at the right time.
For more information on how to get involved with Two Sides and Print Power, contact Sonia Sangera at sks@twosides.info and make sure you don't miss next year's autumn seminar. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.